Hello, friends and beautiful people. It's Catherine. Hey. I'm trying to adjust my phone here. How's everybody doing? Welcome to the weekend. A little weekend wisdom for you. I want to talk about a very intense and potent emotion that keeps us mired in a lot of disappointment with ourselves, and it really robs us of the joy of life. How do I know? Because I've seen it firsthand, and I got sucked into that vortex for a little while myself. So I want to talk about why regret is so sticky and so intense, and what's really going on when we get stuck in the stickiness of it, and it feels really deep and it feels really ugly, and it's got tentacles that reach out into many different facets and areas of our life. Is because we kind of conflate the energy of regret when we let it go unexplored and unexamined in our life for so long. We conflate the sense of energy of regret with failure, with perceived failure. We perceive it as failure. It's not failure, but we perceive it that way. Excuse me. And so regret is that emotion that really robs us of the joy of life. And we cannot be in a sense of innocence or have a sense of curious wonder about the world if we are mired in the trenches of regret. It's looking at our life and saying, I should have been different. I should have chosen differently. I should have reacted or responded differently in this situation. This person should have been different. This event or situation or scenario should have been different. This event should have played out differently. I should have been presented with different choices. I should have had a different opportunity. The deck shouldn't have been stacked against me. That person should have responded differently. I should have said something different. All of those things are signaling an energetic of regret. Anytime and anywhere you are saying that something should have played out differently than the way that it did, you are dealing with the energetic of regret. And so when you take that into account, maybe you can instantly kind of categorize or encapsulate how many times you do that in your life. And when you are in this energetic and you let these regrets, meaning one thing after another that you think should have been different or should have played out differently, when you let those pile up in your energy, what you're left with is this feeling of, well, that all conflates with or leaves me with this summation or deduction that I failed. And not only I failed at this, I failed at that. This series of events, when we tend to collate that or deduce it into a way of being, then we come up with, I am a failure. And so if you are dealing with anything like that in your energy at all, you're going to let your inner critic rule the day every single time. Because if you have deduced that you are a failure by living with this kind of sum total of regret, then you're not in a place where you're making the most informed and discerning decisions and choices in your life going forward. And a lot of that is because you're not in the present. When you are in this energy of regret, you are constantly siphoning off your energy to the past. And because of this identity that you're clinging to because of events that occurred in your past, what you're clinging to is a mental construct that doesn't exist anywhere except in the mind. I mean, the past doesn't exist except anywhere in our mind. I mean, can you go there? Can you put your finger on it? Can you put it in your hand and touch it? No. The past is a construct that entirely exists in our head. And so the only way that you can hope to change that is to change the construct that lives in your head about who you are in the past. And who you are in the past is someone that's constantly aligning with this feeling of regret, what you're going to end up with over time, if this goes unexamined and unexplored, is the feeling that you are a failure. This is not a creative state of being. This is not a state of being where you are, overflowing with self-confidence and self-esteem and bravery and courage and willing to act out of the ordinary or familiar state of being that you've grown accustomed to. This is not a place where you make bold new moves in your life. And it requires, in order to change it, in order to reframe this alignment in your energy with regret, constant worry around the regret, because when you're in this place of regret and constantly living in the past, it's going to affect your present and it's going to affect your future, in the sense that you're not going to make really bold moves if your inner critic, and you're letting your inner critic constantly beat yourself up over where you failed in the past, or where you should have acted differently, or someone else should have played that situation out with you differently, whatever it is. If you're holding on to anything like that, you tend to not want to make bold new moves in your life and act from a place of courage and bravery. And you tend to live constantly in the past. And when we live constantly in the past, you're siphoning off all of your creative energy to a construct that doesn't actually exist. It's hallucinatory and illusory. And you may not believe that or jibe with my thinking on that, but again, I want to ask you, where is the past then? Can you touch it? Can you put a finger on it? Can you grasp it and put it in a little box? No, it's something that exists in the workings of the mind. There and there only. And the only way to touch that and move it, shift it, shake it up, and give it a new way to, give yourself a new way to frame it, is you developing a kind of mental toughness as you interface with this feeling you have of regret. And what does that look like? It starts with reframing anywhere you are looking at your life and saying it should have been different. It's being more observing in those thoughts in the moments that you're having them. And it's about tackling that inner critic in the moment and saying, what you're saying about me, what you're saying about me and my life is false. And again, if we're not acting from a place of courage, we're not likely to stand up to our own inner critic, our own inner judge, and do that. A lot of us don't have the awareness that we're sitting with thoughts day in and day out that it should have been different, I should have been different, that person should have known better. And yet here we are, having those thoughts, and here I am talking to you and maybe shaking this up and waking this up in your energy and asking you, where are you interfacing with these thoughts and beliefs about yourself every day? And as a loving reminder, telling you that you're living with the energetic of regret. And if you're living with the energetic of regret, you are robbing yourself of being fully aware, fully awake, fully attentive in the now moment, which is the only moment that you have the ability to control. And so even when you're interfacing with those thoughts, bringing yourself into the now moment and taking control of the situation in your head, this interface that you're having with your inner critic and the feelings of regret, if you're in the now moment and you're observing those thoughts and you're saying, that's not true, that's not true, I don't believe that I have any ability to control what happened, because you don't. You don't have any ability to control the past. What you do have control of is your ability to frame the past and how you have the ability to believe differently about the past. And maybe a good way to start is by saying, okay, if I feel it could have been different, I don't have any control over that now. But maybe I can see that the people that were involved in this event that I wish was different, or this exchange, interaction that I wish was different, we were all working with the best amount of information, the best availability of knowledge that we had at the time. Can I forgive that and let it go? Ah, now you've changed the past, because you're changing your present framing of it. And this is the only way we have the ability to change the past. It's the only ability we have any control over what has been, is by looking at it now and saying, I can see that there are different parameters here that I wasn't willing to see before or couldn't see before. Maybe the person I was involved with who, I had this exchange or interaction with, maybe they were hurt and very deeply wounded like I was at the time. but I was so wounded in my own trauma I couldn't see it. Or again, this person, situation, the way I reacted to it was with the best available information I had at the time. I'm working with a different level of information now. I'm a different person now. So how can I say I'm that same person? I don't have to live with regret if I know I'm not that same person. I can choose differently now. Do you see where that sense of power starts to come back in? Do you start to feel that welling up in your solar plexus? And so you can develop a different kind of emotional intelligence and a different kind of mental toughness around where you continually frame your life and your viewpoint of your life from a place or a standpoint of regret. You have the ability to change that at any given time. And I want to tell you something else about the energy of regret, that it is one of the strongest and most potent emotions that keep us locking down our consciousness into a past version of self. So we may think that we're moving forward in life, but if we keep going back to these same thoughts of it should have been different, I should have been different, they should have acted differently, said something different, done something different, we are constantly hooking back into a previous version of self that doesn't actually exist anymore, because we're working with a different set of knowledge. We're working with a different kind of applied wisdom in our life now. So you're not the same person. You might think you are. But that, again, is giving your power over to the inner critic and giving control to that aspect of mind to say, this is who I am. That aspect of you saying those things doesn't have to mean anything unless you allow it to. If you don't buy into that, you don't have to believe it, and you don't have to follow the narrative of it. All your choices. So I want to help you with this because I know firsthand what it's like to see the burden and the weight of grief that we carry in our heart, in our lungs, and how it depletes the nervous system, it depletes the immune system. It breaks down the mind, causes progressive deterioration in the body when we live with the energetic of regret nonstop. On a very personal note, my father is someone who still lives with this energy of regret. For as long as I can remember, from the time I was a tiny human, seeing him as a father and a caregiver, constantly living with this energy of regret. I should have chosen differently. I made poor choices. This is where I am. I'm stuck here. I wish my kids were different. I wish my life was different. I wish that I had made more money. I wish I had done this and that and the other thing. And this constant barrage of finding ways to keep yourself in a place of self-disappointment. And when you're in that, you are robbing yourself of the joy of life. And it is one of the saddest things to witness. And it's a burden that is so heavy to carry. And so if you're resonating with this energy, this is one of 5 emotions that we're going to deeply explore in the workshop that I'm going to be offering. It is called Unplug. And we're unplugging from these 5 different emotions of worry, lack, shame, guilt, and regret. And not just unplugging from them, but helping out the nervous system, showing you some ways to move this energy through and transmute it. Just like working with regret, working with the opposite energy of it is learning to apply mental toughness and emotional intelligence. We're going to kind of take the power back from these misspent energies of these emotions and learn how to apply them so that you can move into the opposite spectrum of this energetic and take your life back. This is something I feel very strongly about. I'm very excited about it. I know it's not sexy or beautiful or glamorous to do this kind of work, but these create a foundational level of your experience that allows you to move back into the joy and the presence and the celebration of life. The longer we stay mired in these emotions, we stay in a place where we are not in the bedrock, a strong foundation of building a reality of joy going forward. And I see so many of us who, yes, over the last 2 years have become very disillusioned about the nature of life itself. And so if you feel you need to take your energy and your power back from these misspent emotions, I highly recommend coming into this live intensive coaching experience that is 5 days at the end of June. So it's going to be June 27th through July 1st. There will be replays in the group. I know it's summertime, people are on vacation, etc. But whatever, priorities. If you want to make it to this workshop, if this matters to you, you'll find a way. It's offered at a very, very, I think, affordable investment of $297 for these 5 days of live intensive coaching. I've kept the group size small so that there can be hot seat style coaching, so that I can answer your questions in real time, so there can be engagement in the group, and I have time to spend, which is more individualized and customized for each one of you who are joining. As of now, there's 14 spots left, so these spots are filling up. If this message is resonating with you, if you relate to this and you really feel like you want to get in this workshop, don't hesitate. Join. I'm going to have the link down below, and I hope that you all have very beautiful, very powerful, very loving weekend. Peace and love, everyone. Bye-bye.